It's your little trivia, your tidbit, Karen, actually ended up being a tease for next week. How do you like that?
I think last week I teased that Venus is the #1 UFO sighting.
And actually, that can kind of go into what we're doing today, mass UFO sightings, or UAP, because there have been really some very famous ones, some very talked about ones as far as mass sightings. And again, we use the word mass intentionally because it's a lot different, like you said, Karen, when it's a farmer in Kansas, not to put down farmers in Kansas, but when it's a farmer in Kansas who says, I saw some strange lights in the sky, and everyone's like, well, you're the only one who saw them, buddy, so we don't know what to tell you. Whereas you can go to 40, 100 people who all say, or an entire town, in some cases that we're going to talk about today, who all say that they saw the same thing at the same time. Those are hard to explain, those are hard to refute. It's crazy.
It is crazy. In the first instance, we're going to talk about Stephenville.
Yes.
This situation is the biggest and most significant UFO sighting in American history. There are like 200 sightings. It's like a UFO infestation.
Yeah, just that, just the biggest one in history. So we're starting
Holy
off
moly.
with a bang here. Now, I believe, Karen, you have the year in front of you, I'm trying to remember off the top of my head, early 2000s?
2008, January 8th.
Right.
The invasion took place. It actually, they first saw some of these things in the sky in December, and then on January 8th, that's when the bottom fell out. And it was one of the larger UFO sightings in the United States. Stephenville has a population of 16,000. It's known for its dairy farming. It's the self-professed cowboy capital of the world.
Fantastic.
Yeah, it's south of Fort Worth.
Okay.
Here's some of the sound from the locals who saw what was going on.
I am scared. The girls were screaming. Some of them were crying.
Almost like a flock of birds. I hope it's not. I can't explain that. What is going on with it? Two large, glowing, red objects.
We're not making no sign, it was silent.
I counted probably maybe 10, 12, 14 lights.
It's totally silent.
No sound.
I never heard a sound.
There wasn't any noise. It wasn't any.
Hello, dear. How are you?
Hopefully not. I mean, it was this few years ago, so we're doing okay so far. But, it's okay, but neither here nor there. It is interesting, though, because we say a mass sighting, and you heard a lot of different voices there, a lot of different people. They all saw the same thing and described it.
Yeah, and the thing that it's silent, that's
Yes.
so interesting to me.
That is something that is commonly, I guess you could say, reported in different sightings, especially mass sightings, where people say you don't hear it. Even in some of these sightings from different military personnel that have come out through this report that became a big deal a couple months ago. It's how and why we started this podcast to begin with, was that report that came out from Congress, and New York Times put it out about military and their I guess interactions with UAPs, UFOs, and they always say the same thing: silent, no type of smoke trail. Like it's
Except for the one contrail that we talked about that went from pole to pole.
right.
Which contrails disappeared.
Hello,
I think that was
everybody.
back in episode 2,
Yeah.
way back when.
Way back.
Yes.
Lost time. We just experienced lost time. But what's interesting on January 8th, 2008 in Stephenville, Texas, was that one of the observers is a pilot, Stephen Allen. He said that he saw it from the ground and described it as being a half-mile wide with flashing strobe lights.
That's right.
And it was pursued by 2 fighter jets.
Right.
And then it disappeared at some speed he estimated to be at 3,000 miles an hour.
Right.
And he said it was a biblical experience.
Yeah, it's really something when you hear different testimonials from all of these different people from all walks of life. Right now you're talking about a pilot who's in the air, who's experiencing this chase, essentially, where he's going after to investigate himself in his own aircraft. And then his fighter jets were chasing it.
Well, they denied that initially.
course.
The Air Force first said witness must have seen reflections coming from commercial airliners. Yeah, commercial airliners going 3,000 miles an hour making no sound.
Sure.
I'd like to live in that flight path, please.
Yes, commercial airliners make it sound like a fighter jet. Okay. So it's, it's ridiculous explanations that people do. But the description that it is here is something that a lot of people gave, and it's kind of been refuted as to what exactly they saw. Some people think, well, I saw a UFO/UAP that was many ships, many UFOs that made it look like it was one giant mothership. So there's some dispute as to what exactly they saw, but what we do know is what they're saying, they can't explain it. And it was all of these lights, it was silent, it was fast, it went over the city, and no one can explain what they saw.
Well, one guy walked out of his house and said that there were military helicopters flown at low altitude over residents' homes after the fact, and that they were getting strange phone calls. Then one resident said an unknown man came to his door.
The men in black.
Oh my God. And he said, son, we have the same caliber weapons you have, but we have more of them. Oh, Lord. And so the United States initially said that, nothing to see here. But then they said, well, we clarified that 10 F-16 Fighting Falcons had been on a nighttime training mission in the area on January 8th. So it was a training mission.
Right.
And in the, quote, in the interest of public awareness, Air Force Reserve Command Public Affairs realized an error was made regarding the reported training activity of military aircraft.
Right. Okay. So, because you never hear, fighter jets, right? They're not extremely loud or anything like that. Anybody who's ever been to some type of an air show?
Oh, we love the sound.
Yes.
Look at NASCAR. We love it,
Yeah, I mean, if you're at an air show, if you're at a sporting event, even if you're not there, if you've seen, the national anthem, just go watch Whitney Houston's national anthem at the Super Bowl in 1991 and watch the flyover. You hear these aircraft on. Now, if they want to say that's why they were out flying, that's a different story. They can say, well, people saw and heard our aircraft because it was a training exercise. Well, what were they chasing then?
Exactly.
So there's still so many questions when it comes to the Stephenville mothership sighting, and it's left unanswered because,
Well, your favorite organization, MUFON.org.
Yes, the Mutual UFO Network.
MUFON.org.
No, it's
MUFON. The Mutual UFO Network released a 77-page report on these sightings. MUFON is a UFO investigative organization in the United States. It was founded in 1969.
What?
Now it's 3,000 members. Anyway, the MUFON report, entitled Special Research Report Stephenville, Texas, was written by Glenn Schultz and Robert Powell. Do you know that?
I know the name Robert Powell. Yes.
Okay, well, Schultz has radar experience from working with White Sands Missile Range, and Powell has a chemistry degree and has extensive experience with semiconductors from working for advanced micro devices.
Wow.
Now, the report is an analysis of radar records from the FAA and the National Weather Service obtained through the Freedom of Information Act, FOIA. They made requests, and they compared them to the witness accounts. And Schultz and Powell concluded that the radar data confirms the witness observations of an object as well as the Air Force's statement that 10 aircraft were scrambled. They say it is too difficult to say what the witnesses saw, but there was something there.
We all disagree on a lot these days, but one thing we can all agree on, no one likes getting ripped off by overpriced wireless providers. Hey guys, it's Steven Diener, and that's why I want to talk to you about Mint Mobile, because they have wireless plans at $15 a month when you purchase a 3-month plan. And there's no catch here. Mint Mobile's secret sauce is that they sell wireless service online, which means no retail stores or salespeople. They just deliver premium phone plans directly to you. And I can speak from experience. Mint Mobile far outperforms my old service provider. To put it in UAP terms, my old provider was like that outdated piece of tech, and Mint Mobile is that UFO that flies at Mach 15 with cloaking abilities. So to get this new customer offer and your new 3-month unlimited wireless plan for just $15 a month, go to mintmobile.com/UAP. That's mintmobile.com/UAP. Get your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/UAP. $45 upfront payment required, equivalent to $15 a month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes on unlimited plan. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply. To Mint Mobile for details.
This episode is brought to you by Amazon Prime. There's nothing sweeter than baking cookies during meals. With Prime, I get all Americans delivered right to my door, fast and free, no last-minute store trips needed. And of course, I blast my favorite holiday playlist on Amazon Music. It's the ultimate soundtrack for creating unforgettable memories. From streaming to shopping, it's on Prime. Visit Amazon.com/Prime to get more out of whatever you're into. This episode is brought to you by Polestar. Electric performance is at the core of every choice that went into the all-electric Polestar 3. Like merging a spacious interior with the torque and handling of a sports car, or the ability to go from 0 to 60 in as little as 4.8 seconds, and get an EPA estimated range of up to 315 miles per charge. Choices like this all lead to making your decision to choose Polestar 3 obvious. Book your test drive today at polestar.com.
Okay, I have to tell you, I was just looking on eBay where I go for all kinds of things I love, and there it was.
That hologram trading card. One of the rarest. The last one I needed for my set. Shiny like the...
Designer handbag of my dreams. One of a kind. eBay had it. Now everyone's asking. Where'd you get your...
Windshield wipers. eBay has all the parts that come out. No more new. Just beautiful.
Whatever you love, find it on eBay. eBay. Things people love.
And here it was, and again, it's one of those things, just kind of like with the government's report that came out. Well, there's something there, we just don't know what it is.
Well, it said twice radar picked up an object traveling at 2,000 miles an hour.
My gosh.
And at other times it showed a slow-moving object.
It's super interesting, and we don't know, and that's the bottom line. Now, I will be fair, and I'll close it up by this, because our next story is also one of the most famous mass UFO sightings ever reported in the world. But I will say,
In the universe.
Yeah, the next one we're going to talk about, well, the third one, kind of hard to say that it's a military experiment, but this one, the next one we're going to talk about, could be some type of secret military, technology that they're testing, and they don't want people to know, so that's why they don't say anything. I will fully concede that.
I think the governor of Arizona would have known about it.
Yes.
And you're going to hear from him about this.
About this next one. Well, when it comes to Stephenville and one in Arizona, because they, again, you have to track something to speak to in this moment is they say, oh, well, it could just be, military experiments, and they don't want you to know about the secrets technology they're testing. And I fully concede to that. They did that with the SF-1 Blackbird back in the day when they were testing that with Skunk Works and at Area 51 and, the U-2 spy plane. People thought those were UFOs. Yeah, of course, because they couldn't explain how an air fly. Super secret spy planes. But when you look at all the facts and all the reports of these sightings, it's hard for me to say this is secret U.S. technology because it just sounds too far out there.
Well, if it can go to 13th, 1997.
Right. I remember this.
And it was seen in Arizona, Nevada, and the Mexican state of Sonora. So even the Mexicans.
That's right.
And lights of varying descriptions were seen by thousands of people between 7:30 p.m. and 10:30. That's Mountain Time. In a space of about 300 miles from the Nevada line to Phoenix to the edge of Tucson. And there were two distinct events involving the incident. A triangular formation of lights seen pass over the state and a series of stationary lights seen in the Phoenix area.
Right, that's right. So which is also odd because normally in a mass sighting you have the same type of movement description, right? As in Stephenville, people were saying sometimes it was moving fast, sometimes it was hovering and moving slow. In this case, you have a stationary and a movement. So I guess it just depended on your perspective of where you were and how you saw it. But mostly this is famous for, like you said, the lights over Phoenix. And it became national news. I actually remember this. I'm kind of aging myself here, but I was 11 years old when it happened. And I remember seeing this on the nightly
You
news.
were 11 in 97?
I was, yes. Sorry. And, sorry. And I remember seeing this and being fascinated. And maybe this is where my obsession, if you will, about the unknown of UFOs and UAP and alien life kind of started was probably from this. This might be my Nexus event and where this all started.
Well, according to the United States Air Force, they identified the second group of lights as flares dropped by A-10 Warthog aircraft.
That's incorrect. No, you're right in their explanation.
Yeah, that were training on exercises at the Barry Goldwater Range in southwest Arizona. Witnesses claimed to have observed a huge Carpenter square-shaped UFO containing 5 spherical lights or possibly light-emitting engines.
Right, so that's the weird thing about this too, is if you remember the footage of this, and if not, you can just search Lights Over Phoenix on YouTube. You see all the
No, you're going to
footage.
go to a50wftl.com
Of course.
and you're going to look at our blog.
Yes, we do have a blog.
And we'll have the video there of the Lights Over Phoenix, so there's video of it.
Even easier. So we'll put the video up there on our blog. So once you are done with this episode, go ahead and head over to wftl.com and to the UAP blog, and you can see this video if you don't remember this scenario. Because what happened in some cases where the people were seeing were it started off as one light, two lights, three lights, and these lights kept appearing until you could see basically 5 lights in a V shape. And that's why when you have witnesses draw pictures of this aircraft, they draw a giant V shape. And so, you know, like an complete triangle, and with points at the front of it.
Stealth bombers don't have lights like that.
Right, now it's, you know, stealth bomber, and I've seen a stealth bomber in person fly over when I was at a football game one time. This was not a stealth bomber.
Right, you know.
Yes.
Well, in fact, Stephen, one witness is very credible. The governor of Arizona. Guess what his name is? Fife Symington.
It's a strong name.
I know. He was the governor of Arizona at the time, and years later, he said he witnessed the incident. He actually was talking with Fox 10 Phoenix in May of 2014. Remember, this happened in 1997, and so initially he was afraid to talk about it.
Right.
But here is old Fife.
It's nothing like anything I've ever seen.
And you're an Air Force guy.
Yeah, and a pilot. Got a lot of hours flying. So it was pretty breathtaking. And I'll never forget, I snuck out to see it, you know, without DPS. I'm not supposed to be driving my own car. I told Ann what I was doing, that I was going to go up to Skull Peak and see what everybody was, you know, clamoring about. And when I walked in the front door, she looked at me, just normally I'm fair complected and pale anyway, right? And she said, oh my gosh, she said she looked like a ghost. What did you see? And I said, I don't know what I saw, but it was really something. I'm not going to talk about it.
He called it otherworldly. What are the white aliens, with the blue eyes, like the Anderson Cooper ones?
They call those the Nordics.
The Nordics. I mean,
Yes.
he looks like a Nordic. Like, so,
Anderson Cooper aliens.
yes.
I love that sound personally when the governor was former Governor Fife, and because it goes to the culture of secrecy, right? He went in and investigated for himself. This is the governor of the state at the time.
Without security.
Right.
What is that DPS is security?
Yeah, it's like his, you know, his detail, if you will, a secret service for the governor to be compared to that. So he leaves without his security detail and kind of goes off on his own to check this out because he wanted to, you know, not have anybody bother him. And as he goes out there to check this out, that's when he sees the lights over Phoenix. Imagine a major American city and everybody's seeing a giant UFO flying over. That's what happened in Phoenix on March 13th, 1997, and even the governor at the time went out to check it out, saw it, knew he was experiencing something different, something he's never seen, not of this world, but I can't say that to anybody. That, again, went to the culture of secrecy, or the stigma, if you will. This is taboo. We weren't supposed to talk about this. He did.
Green men.
Yeah, then he thought...
Green men.
Right, green, gray, purple, whatever. People thought you were crazy if you talked about seeing this thing. So him as the governor, he knew he saw something strange. He knew he saw something he couldn't explain, but he couldn't come out to talk about it because that was the idea behind this, and it still is in some cases. People feel like you're going to be crazy if you talk about it.
He waited till 2014. Here's more of the interview.
Well, I saw a huge craft just kind of come right over Squaw Peak. It was just breathtaking. And unquestionably it was a UFO, which means unidentified flying object.
Thank you.
That's right.
Thank you, Fife.
I mean, by actual definition, it was a UFO, yes.
Or now a UAP.
That's right. Unidentified aerial phenomenon is the government term for this because they wanted to get away from UFOs since it has that stigma.
It has a My Favorite Martian stigma to it.
Right. that's the interesting thing. They say some people are fine with that. They say when they hear the Phoenix Lights story, they say, "Oh, what are you crazy? That was debunked years ago." But they said it was flares. Use your brain for a second, okay? Please. A10 site actually did research on this. Have no flares that they can shoot. Okay? Flares don't last very long. That's another thing you have to remember. People who say that these lights hover for almost to an hour for a long time. These flares not gonna last for an hour.
They were special flares.
Yeah, exactly. And flares, in case you wonder what they're putting out, basically they can see this one on the ground and into your aircraft missiles. The flares burn hotter than the exhaust would from the airplane, which is my other point. There was no exhaust seen from the aircraft.
So you can get target lock.
Right, so in this case, they tend to drop the flares that way because the flares is the plane. But if you're seeing an A-10 dropping flares, number one, you're going to hear the A-10, right? It's a warplane, you're going to hear it. Number two, you're going to see the exhaust coming out, and that's why it would drop flares to begin with as far as a military exercise. In this case, if it was a secret military exercise like we were talking about, you would have heard it, you would have seen it.
The governor would have known about it. He goes,
Exactly.
it was not a B-1 bomber.
That wasn't even close to me. It was much bigger than B1. I mean, one actually isn't that big. I mean, it's a low altitude, this was totally different.
Something, though, that you think our own government may have been kind of run by a populated area to see what would happen?
Well, they certainly achieved their goal of stirring the pot if that's what they were doing, but I don't think so. I think this was technologically far advanced.
And that's, I mean, there you go. That's the governor saying that, former governor back when this happened in 1997 in Arizona, like Symington. That's his.
It's 5 feet. 5 feet. Look at my slippers.
I wish if I talked to him like that. But that's his take on it. This again, former governor,
you know,
former pilot, knows what he's talking about.
The B-1 appears larger when it's closer. Things in nearer appear closer than they are.
I'm big, closer than I see. So it's, and also with the flares, like we said, the A-10 can shoot out 30 flares. Again, maybe this might be on our blog too, to show you the difference in flares, what flares look like as opposed to the Phoenix Lights, because when an airplane, or a warplane in this case, and what they're saying was their official explanation, shoots out flares, they come out like rapid fire. It's right out the back. These were steady lights that stayed there, and 5 of them, not 30, 5. So, I mean, come on, guys, do better than that. So this, to me, is one of the most famous, if not the most famous, mass sighting that, in my book, is still unexplained.
Pro Paint Days are back at Lowe's. That means it's time to save big on your next job. Right now, get your choice of 5-gallon pails of Valspar Signature Ceiling Paint or HGTV Home by Sherwin-Williams Flat Ceiling Paint for just $148. Plus, get it delivered to your job site with free same-day delivery when you order by 2 p.m. Lowe's knows paint. Lowe's knows pros. Valid through December 20th. Delivery by 8 p.m. Second subscriber availability. District charge applies. See Lowe's.com/same-day delivery.
The holidays are back at Starbucks, and there's so much to share. The classics like caramel brûlée latte, peppermint mocha, and chestnut breakfast latte. We're celebrating everyone's flavor of festivity. Little more than yet. This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Ever find yourself playing the budgeting game? Well, with the Name Your Price tool from Progressive, you can find options to fit your budget and potentially lower your bills. Try it at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Price and coverage match limited.
With Uber Reserve, good things come to go plan ahead. Family picnic? Reserve a ride as soon as you book your flights. To all the planners, now you can reserve your ride up to 90 days in advance. See Uber app for details.
Because you even had, I think it was the mayor of Phoenix, and he regrets this now because when this was all happening, like I said, it was national news at the time and really world news. It got picked up by so many outlets. He came out to a press conference to try to explain what was happening. He's like, we have the corporate, we're to explain what's happening, and he had one of his assistants come out dressed as a gray alien.
Oh.
And people were laughing, they made fun of it, and he said later on after that, after his church or something, he's like, you know, I did that to try to make a joke of it. He's like, but I saw it too, and I can't explain it, and I kind of regret making a joke of it because because I feel like I delegitimized our citizens who were concerned about this, and to this day, it's not explained.
Well, like War of the Worlds with, the opening of the jar in a toilet, that was the sound effect of people freaking out. And I guess the government's afraid that's how we would react in reality.
Now near home comes a special bulletin from Frederick, New Jersey. It is reported that at 8:50 p.m. a huge flaming object, believed to be a meteorite, fell on a farm in the neighborhood of Grover's Mill, New Jersey, 22 miles from Trenton. The flashing sky was visible within a radius of several hundred miles. The noise of the impact was heard as far north as Aleutian. We have dispatched the... They're trying to run away from it, but it's no use. They're falling like flies.
October 30th, 1938. War of the Worlds. But in 1994, 60 children at Ariel School in Ruwa, Zimbabwe, said they saw a UFO and aliens with big eyes in the bushland near their school playground. And the story got reported around the world because they took pictures of it.
So this is story
You
number
can't
3.
refute this stuff. It's not like a photo. These kids drew it.
Right, and that's why we chose these 3 stories in particular, because they're so hard to argue and they've stood the test of time. And this last one is the oldest story out of the bunch, like you said, 1994. This is a different type of mass sighting, Karen. This is a mass sighting where you're not just having people on the ground looking up to the sky and saying, I'm seeing lights that I can't explain hovering over me. This is a mass sighting of, we have seen craft land and we've seen beings come off the craft. Here is our picture description of what they look like, and these are children.
Right. Well, and we also have the picture up on our website, www.uptail.com.
Yeah, you can see the picture they drew. It's part of our cover photo, actually, for our episode 8 this week of mass sightings.
The BBC crew were among the first on the scene, and they spoke to the kids and the teachers. I guess the BBC speaks Zimbabwean.
Maybe.
Look at that car.
They also report strange lights and a craft in the sky in other parts of Zimbabwe, as well as in Zambia and in South Africa.
No, you're right. They have these reports coming out of Zimbabwe and Zambia, but Zimbabwe is where the sighting took place. But it is interesting to bring up Zambia as well, because normally in these mass sighting situations, you have what they call cluster sightings. And that's where you have different sightings, different days for an extended period of time. We've seen it happen in England.
I want to do that to my car, but I can't.
In the areas of Arizona. The Phoenix Lights are just the most famous case of a sighting in Arizona. There's always sightings in Arizona. Whatever it is, Arizona's a hotbed.
That's interesting.
And of course, New Mexico. But that area, that region there, for whatever reason, is kind of a hotbed. But when it comes to this case in Zimbabwe, this to me is also one of the most incredible cases and one of the most hardest things to refute, because now you're dealing with school-age children.
And they're all drawing the same
ridiculous.
Dang.
They're all drawing the same thing, and think about how children operate. You might have a couple of troublemakers in the group, but you're not going to get 60 kids to agree. Again, school age. I'm talking before middle school. You're not going to get 60 kids all to agree on a story and hold true to that story. There's going to be maybe 2 or 3 that try to trick you and say, yeah, let's go draw some pictures and play a trick at everybody. You have all 60 kids
Right, agreeing on what they saw.
agreeing and saying, yes,
So I was
this
trying
is
to
true.
figure out.
When Americans flew in with their biplanes, they made
No, I think
biplanes out of
it's just
straw
Yeah,
to show what they thought was from the gods.
right.
I mean, they recreate what they see.
Yeah, exactly. And so in this case, like you said, they're recreating what they're seeing, which is why the ancient aliens in our episode 9 next week is going to be so interesting, because people recreate what they see in the only ways they know how. And that's what they did in Zimbabwe. These kids, they took their pen, their paper, they're at school, they have all the school supplies on their desk, and they draw this picture of an alien
Yeah. And
and
the ship.
UFO.
Yeah. Yeah, we're going to do the Bolivia next week, but there's only one explanation for everything that we've learned on this podcast.
Probably the alien, our civilization
As we know it.
Oh no. I hope not. Maybe that's what the kids were thinking in Zimbabwe, because think about how shocked they must have been when this is happening, right? I mean, you're
Have
in
you ever
school.
seen because I think if you personally do see a UFO and you've experienced it, it's going to change the way you look at everything, from the Earth to the universe to our solar system, everything. I think it resets your mind because now you've seen it.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I've heard people say that before, like, oh, I was a skeptic before I saw something myself. Now, I've always been intrigued by it. I've always leaned toward this is real and it's unexplained. You just don't know what's going on.
Like the cargo cult.
I mean, I saw something strange one time. It might have been helicopters, though, so I can't say that what I saw was actually UFOs. Well, I mean, it was unidentified to me because I couldn't tell what it was.
Well, we had one over Miami recently, I think, pretty well.
Right, these things have been seen everywhere, all the time, around the world. And, these 3 cases that we went over today are really, to me, the 3 most interesting, famous, irrefutable mass sighting cases I've come across. Because there was even more going on in that story in Zimbabwe where investigators came out and the grass was glowing. That was unexplained.
Really?
Some of the kids had some type of sickness, I believe, that's been only be explained by, coming in contact with radiation. There was a lot going on with that where, again, I have 2 young kids, okay? A 6-year-old and a 4-year-old. And I'm telling you, it's impossible to get 2 kids that age to agree on a story. It's absolutely 100% impossible to have 60 kids, school-age children, agree on a story and not deviate from the story. This is not, a mastermind gang where, hey, all right, here's what we're going to do, here's the story.
If you tried to tell them to get on the same page,
No, absolutely not.
But when something happens that's so, earth-shattering to these people, they remember it.
Exactly, and that's exactly it. So this was such a huge event for them that it hit them all the same way where, yes, this happened, yes, we saw this, yes, we saw this alien, we saw the UFO, here's our drawings.
It's called a crystalline moment. It just crystallizes in your head.
Right.
For everyone that experienced it.
And actually, the story that I saw in this, they were older being interviewed, and they still tell the same story because it stuck with them all their lives. Again, this happened, 27 years ago, so they're being interviewed 20 years after the fact in the story that I saw. And so it's
if you ask someone about an accident or a robbery, they'll say, oh, he had on a blue hoodie. No, he had on a gray sweatshirt.
Right.
No, yeah, everyone's got a different story.
Right.
But not in this case.
No, in this case, and that's a great point, because this is a case, as far as in Zimbabwe with the school children, that has stood the test of time, and that all of the witnesses still tell the same story, and they talk about it like it happened yesterday. So that, to me, means that this actually happened to them, and they're not making it up.
Did they communicate with the beings?
No, but they said they saw it kind of walking about, kind of walked into the bush, and then it's, eventually took off. And they saw the lights, they saw everything. I mean, they were all a part of this and all experienced together.
They don't know, they probably did not have a lot of high technology in the area, so this would have been really
1994 Zimbabwe. I mean, my gosh, 1994 my house in Boca Raton didn't have a lot of technology. So, good Lord. Yeah, this is something that's, again, that to me, that story especially, I know Stephenville, the mothership over there, very interesting, a lot of sightings, the lights over Phoenix, unexplainable. This one really hits you like, all right, something weird is going on. How do all these kids have the same recollection, the same way of the same story? So,
Pretty hard.
now, speaking of how do people have the same recollection of the same story and standing the test of time, next week we're going to get into, like we said earlier as we started, the ancient alien aspect of things. And we're not going to get into, like the show and go crazy and go into all these different theories, but things like, Puka, Akhenaten, things like that. There's so much to unravel when it comes to ancient aliens and how people reported it, thousands of years ago.
Some of these sites just defy any type of reality.
And how things were built so perfectly. I mean, there's so many things to get into on this next week.
Ancient astronaut theorists say yes.
Yes. So make sure to check out episode 9 then next week on UAP Unidentified Alien Podcast. And make sure to go back and listen to the other ones too if you thought, oh my gosh, what am I doing? I haven't heard episodes 1 through 7. Apple, Spotify, or WFCL.com, where all the episodes are. You can listen to that. Or any other place where you get podcasts, because we're everywhere. So you can find us wherever you get your podcasts.
Download, subscribe, give us at least 5 stars.
Extraterrestrial stars.
Extraterrestrial stars. We appreciate it, and we appreciate you listening. Thank you so much.
Yes, Gary Curtis there, Stephen Diener here, so be sure to tune in again next time on UAP, Unidentified Alien Podcast. Ancient Alien is going to be fun next time.
We're going to change the name because you can't say unidentified.
I can't say unidentified. Maybe we'll have a new name next week as well.
Well, it was going to be 50 Shades of Grey.
Can't do that.
Well, thanks.
Talk to you then.
As a small business owner, my favorite thing about posting a job on LinkedIn is that when I hit post, I clock out and LinkedIn clocks in.
LinkedIn makes it easy to post your job for free, get qualified candidates, and manage them all in one place. Plus, LinkedIn extends the reach of your job post by allowing you to share it with your network. And hiring managers that add a hiring friend to their LinkedIn profiles receive 2 times more qualified applicants. Go to linkedin.com/achieve to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply.
Tech scams, identity thieves, data leaks. Hearing about these online threats every day can be stressful. But don't worry, McAfee Total Protection is here to help you live a worry-free life online. What does worry-free mean? Well, it means you won't have to wonder if that text message is a scam, if new threats will pop up on your PC, or if you're safe from identity theft. Visit McAfee.com/online protection today to get award-winning online protection for just $39.99 your first year. That's McAfee.com/online protection. Cancel anytime. Terms apply.
All right, welcome back to another thrilling and captivating episode of UAP, the Unidentified Alien Podcast. And I still can't say it. I still can't say it. One day I'm going to be able to say the name without stuttering it, but that's okay. Nevertheless, we are here. It's Stephen Diener, Karen Curtis over there. And this is, I'm just going to tell you right off the bat, before Karen goes into her patented tidbits, before we go into the subject material.
It's pending.
Yes, it is. That's true. This is a special 2-part series that we're doing, and the reason being because, well, number one, there's so much to talk about when it comes to what we teased last week in the ancient alien realm. Not to get too, copycat when it comes to some of the things that you've seen on the show, but we do want to cover a little bit differently than anything that you've seen before when it comes to so many different weird things, ancient alien aspects and how it relates to today. And with it being that there's so much, and also with it being this is episode number 9, Karen, and next week that means it's episode number 10.
Can you believe it already?
Unreal. So
I mean, this is since the government came out recently and basically said UFOs and aliens are real.
Yes.
And so I went, okay, maybe there is something to this. And Stephen Diener's been all over this topic since he was,
You're probably a teenager, I guess.
Yeah, so I went to him because I knew he knew what was going on. I said, let's group together and try to figure out what's really going on. So when you hear Puma Punku and you hear Gobekli Tepe, you might think, oh, I already know about this because I watch ancient aliens.
No, this is very different, and it's going to be different for the next couple episodes because this is part 1. So Part 1 is episode 9 of UAP, and then our special anniversary episode 10 next week. We'll finish off this Ancient Alien series, which will be part 2. So,
What is 10th anniversary? Wood, tin, paper?
I'm going to go with flowers. I don't know. I feel like flowers always work for an anniversary. But so I will let you lead the way, Karen. What do we have here first? Because there's so much to get to.
There is so much to get to, and a lot of the things we're going to talk about today were actually constructed, thousands of years before Christ, right? BC.
Right, yeah.
And do you know when the wheel was invented?
1974. Am I off on that?
The 1974 Tempest came with rear wheel positive. It's a trick question. No. 4th century BC. Now, they've also changed that. BC, before Christ, has now become before Common Era.
Right, BCE, but we like the old school.
Yeah, before Christ. The whole calendar is based on the big guy.
Yeah, BC and AC, but nevertheless, that is something that's true. So you're going back, obviously a few thousand years when the wheel was invented.
Well, the point is that, okay, it was invented 4th century BC, but this other stuff was built amazingly without the wheel.
Right, so it kind of makes you wonder. By stuff we mean, and we're going to get to it in the 2-part series, the pyramids, Stonehenge, Easter Island, how they all relate, and all these other things that we're going to talk about here today too, like Puma Punku. And we mentioned it briefly last week. So let's go ahead and dive into it, as they say, because it's so fast, and all this stuff is fascinating. Everything we covered is fascinating. Like you said, the reason we got into it is because of the government's, I guess you can say, reveal that yes, we don't know what these things are, but they are real. So it begs the question, well, if they're real, how long have they been here? And is it possible that they did help people in ancient times to make things like Puma Punku that has these perfect straight lines, and the math is perfect, and it's math that we still have trouble calculating today and how these things were built.
Yeah.
So that's the part that always gets me about these ancient, structures is these things are perfectly, when you look at mathematically, physics-wise, they're perfect. How do you do that?
You can't even get
thousands of years ago.
a piece of paper in between some of these seams. And what's under the oceans? We don't even know. Maybe there were other civilizations more advanced than us that were on Earth way before us. Because you have what? Göbekli Tepe is like 11,000 BC.
Right.
And then you've got Puma Punku, which is like between 300 and 1,000 AD. Is that correct?
Yeah.
No, that was prior to the Inca Empire.
That's right.
Which is 300,000. Puma Punku was before that with the Tiwanaku.
Which is amazing to think about, again, which is these ancient times, how advanced these civilizations were, and the question is, how? Maybe they were just really smart, maybe they figured things out for themselves, but, I mean, it does beg the question, so...
Nah, I think they had help. I do.
Thanks.
Now, Stephen has gelled and moosed his hair. It's standing straight up.
That's right.
And he's wearing a chunk of turquoise on a leather strap as a choker around his neck, and here he is.
Below the plateau where the H blocks are located
Now that's
are the
Georgia
steps
Toothpaste
and walls
Express.
marking the edges of the Puma Punku mound. Now I can truly see the scale of the site.
Okay, so why, Georgios Tsoukalos, I love him. He's on Ancient Aliens.
We had to give a little nod to him when we were talking Ancient Aliens, so...
We did. I was going to send Stephen down to Bolivia to check out Puma Punku, but he didn't have his passport, so I sent Giorgio down for us to get the audio down there. So, of course, that is not Stephen. And Puma Punku is the name of that large temple complex that's located near Tiwanaku in Bolivia, and it is part of a larger archaeological site known as, oh my gosh, Tiahuanacu.
I'll give that one to you. That's fine, because you know why? I'll give it to you because you tried. That's all I get.
Capping by vowel.
That's right.
So the temple's origin is a mystery, and it's based on carbon dating, which is what they do to figure out how old the rocks are. And archaeologists believe that the complex may have been built by the Tiwanaku Empire, one of the most important civilizations prior to Greece.
Right, and it's, again, amazing, and we'll have all these photos. If you're not familiar with the structure itself, you can just go to 850wftl.com, search for the UAP blog, where we have all of the previous podcasts as well. If you've missed any of the podcasts, all the previous episodes are on there, 1 through 8. And we're also going to have on there pictures of some of these structures that we're talking about.
Supporting images and everything. By the way, so last week we told you about the quartz that these rocks that they make up Stonehenge. They're like 99% of this crystal quartz that is indestructible. Well, Tiwanaku and Puma Punku, their stonework is what makes it so intriguing.
Right, and again, because you're talking about stuff that it was architecture that wasn't figured out in at least modern times, thousands of years later. Now, when you're talking about the pyramids and Stonehenge and things like that, yes, it was being done, but how were they doing this? How were they cutting through this rock? How were they moving it? I mean, that's been the age-old question for years.
Stonehenge, I guess they got the stones from Wales and then they moved them like 200 miles on logs, they rolled them along. But the stonework was more, I don't know, it wasn't as exact as Pumapuku is, just like incredible stonework. It's like, is the rock molten and they poured it into a mold? Or did they have some sort of a diamond cutting device? Because Giorgio Tsoukalos says that that's the only way they could get those edges so perfect and so sharp. You can actually cut your finger on one of the edges of these things. It's just so exact.
And that's the crazy thing to me when it comes to, people say, oh, well, what's the big deal? They just move some rocks around. Well, first of all, these are thousands of tons each. So again, how are you moving it around? But aside from that, what are they using to cut so perfectly into these stones?
Now here's Giorgio.
The cuts from the diamond saw were the best comparison to those found on the stone blocks at Pumapunku. So we're talking about the sharpest, most sophisticated cutting tool we have today. So how could a so-called primitive society have achieved such sophisticated stone carving techniques?
Exactly. Right, so that is the question. And Giorgio puts it perfectly there. And if you don't know who that is, just, you know the guy, the memes where he has giant hair and he's got his hands out and says aliens.
He's like a Greek, he's a Greek guy from Switzerland. I think he's born in, yes, that's why he's got that.
How about that?
Yeah.
But so what makes
Still
Pumapunku
trying
so
to wake
fascinating
up,
while you wanted to
Mother.
spend time on it first here today is, like, you are there, how are they able to cut through this stone? And essentially, after doing studies on it, the only way you could really cut through it was with the sharpest tool that we know of to man to date, which is the diamond saw. They didn't have the diamond saw that we know of, 3,000 years ago, whatever it is, when this was around. And it's interesting when you look at Pumapunku because it kind of looks like almost a lost city. The way it's
that was destroyed as well. Yeah, all these H blocks, as they call them, were interlocking.
Correct.
And some of them, you can't. They're so precise. The stones are cut so precisely that they fit perfectly into a lock and key type of situation with each other without using mortar, and not even a razor blade can slide between the rocks.
Right. So you're talking about precision,
machine quality,
that can only be done, at least we thought, could only be done today with 3D printers and lasers and computer graphics. And they're doing this before the advent of those things. So how?
They don't have the wheel. They don't have anything that Stephen just said. They don't have a writing system.
Right.
Nothing.
But meanwhile, they have these giant stones that are thousands, hundreds
that
of
we
tons.
Can't recreate today.
Right. And that's, if you want to try to do this today, it's extremely hard, if not impossible, to get these perfect edges, to get the perfect squares inside that, of course, measured up with the sun and the eclipses and everything like that. So now you're mixing math with astronomy, and these perfect interlocking H blocks, which are literally look like giant stone H's. So again, these pictures, if you haven't seen these, if you're not familiar with the stones of Pumapunku, it will be on 850wftail.com, and you can go to the UAP blog and you'll have those pictures there, because it makes you ask the question, how and why. We all disagree on a lot these days, but one thing we can all agree on, no one likes getting ripped off by overpriced wireless providers. Hey guys, it's Steven Diener, and that's why I want to talk to you about Mint Mobile, because they have wireless plans at $15 a month when you purchase a 3-month plan. And there's no catch here. Mint Mobile's secret sauce is that they sell wireless service online, which means no retail stores or salespeople. They just deliver premium pro plans directly to you. And I can speak from experience. Mint Mobile far outperforms my old service provider. To put it in UAP terms, my old provider was like that outdated piece of tech, and Mint Mobile is that UFO that flies at Mach 15 with cloaking abilities. So to get this new customer offer and your new 3-month unlimited wireless plan for just $15 a month, go to mintmobile.com/UAP. That's mintmobile.com/UAP. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/UAP. $45 upfront payment required, equivalent to $15 a month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes on unlimited plan. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for details.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed.
We're driven by the search for better. But when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. Listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/SBO. Terms and conditions apply.
Okay, I have to tell you, I was just looking on eBay where I go for all kinds of things I love, and there it was.
That hologram trading card. One of the rarest. The last one I needed for my set. Shiny like the...
Designer handbag of my dreams. One of a kind. eBay had it. Now everyone's asking. Ooh, where'd you get your...
Windshield wipers. eBay has all the parts that fit my car. No more line. Just beautiful.
Whatever you love, find it on eBay. eBay. Things people love.
Pro Paint Days are back at Lowe's. That means it's time to save big on your next job. Right now, get your choice of 5-gallon pails of Valspar Signature Ceiling Paint or HGTV Home by Sherwin-Williams Flat Ceiling Paint for just $148. Plus, get it delivered to your job site with free same-day delivery when you order by 2 p.m. Lowe's knows paint. Lowe's knows pros. Now to December 20th. Delivery by 8 p.m. Subject to driver availability. Additional terms apply. See Lowe's.com/same-day delivery for details.
The other thing is not only are they huge,
Yes.
they're mamma jamma stones, man. They're of mammoth proportion. They're like 25.6 feet long, 17 feet wide, and 3.5 feet thick, and they weigh about 131 metric tons.
Okay.
And due to their size, we don't know how they got them to Pumapunku because it's way high up. The quarry, apparently, in Lake Titicaca, pardon me, is roughly 10 kilometers away.
Right.
Now, there is something interesting about the stones
I'm
that
bored.
may indicate how they moved them and did everything. They're kind of magnetic. Here's our friend Jordan.
Check out this block right here. Something really cool about this one. First, I wanted to show you true north on my compass, which, as you can see, this is true north. Now watch what happens. All of a sudden, true north is over there. It's in the complete opposite direction. And here, even more so, down there. This is why. So what's going on here? Clearly, this rock has been somehow magnetized. So was it exposed to some electromagnetic waves? Or is it like this because at some point these blocks underwent or came in contact with something strange? I mean, this whole place is bizarre.
It's hard to refute. Obviously, it was, investigated very ancient aliens from here and there. There's so many questions with that, and that's the thing that I always find fascinating, Karen, when it comes to looking into all these things. I know I'm not really going to get any answers. What's going to happen is I'm just going to get more questions.
That's
but
right.
I love to think of the possibilities and the theories behind how is there true north in two different places? Why would it be magnetized? And if it was affected by some outside source, say maybe an anti-gravity technology, then how is that residue still on the stone? That would be creating some type of polar opposite magnetism. It's incredible, really, when you sit down and think about it.
It's baffling.
It is baffling.
But maybe it was some sort of space hub for aliens to come in and land.
Possible.
And there's lots of gold in the area.
Probably scaring people away.
So is Earth.
Yes. Earth has a lot of gold, comparatively speaking. And it all got here via meteor or asteroid. It's not just something that occurs. When a star explodes, and the gold flies out into the universe in these meteors, and then they hit the Earth, and that's where we get the gold deposit. That's why it's a finite source. But it's very necessary. It's such a conduit. It can do so many things. It's malleable. It's amazing. Gold is amazing.
It is. On episode 11 of UAP, we'll be talking about all gold, the properties of gold. I'm just kidding.
I did it in high school. I did the homework on gold.
Did you
I was so fascinated by it. Yeah, it does so many different things.
Well, did you talk about how aliens, theories anyway, and different stories from inside sources, you talked about where these alien beings, different species, one of the resources that they try to mine on Earth, and one of the reasons why they come here is for gold. because they use it as a resource.
They did. And
So,
by the way, the Tiwanaku style of artifacts were found in Peru as well as Bolivia and as Argentina. So that shows their far-reaching political and economic influence in the region. So maybe they had help from aliens in developing their society. We're talking again way before Christ.
right. So,
Which, by the way, Pumapunku was in the Bible. Ocean just to Pumapunku.
that's true.
So if it's in the Bible, it's for real, okay?
How about that, making the connections here today? So, there was a lot to go over there with Pumapunku, and I know there's so much more too. Where are we going next, Karen?
The Baltic Sea anomaly. You brought this to my attention. Ocean exploration team led by the Swedes found what some suggested may be a flying saucer on the sea floor. What do you think? And we'll have the image up at our blog.
Right.
UAP, but there's like skid marks behind a large object that suggested that it may have moved across or crashed on the sea floor.
So the question is, and I think this was discovered 10 years ago or so in the Baltic Sea. It was discovered by basically these guys who, trying to get sonar readings on the bottom of the ocean for treasure hunting. Really, they were looking for different things in the Baltic Sea. And they come across this weird image on their sonar.
Perfectly round, which doesn't happen in nature.
It doesn't, right. There's no straight lines in nature, which is, that means it's an indication that it's man-made or made by someone. And also, a circular formation doesn't happen. It's usually something jagged. It's, kind of misshaped when it comes to a natural formation. Just look at the Grand Canyon as an example. It's all over the place,
Right.
zigzags everywhere. So when it comes to this, they looked at the image on their sonar,